Okay, Jen. So the first episode we did was about your dad, and we get to hear about your dad. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's very very powerful, and I think I can speak for all of us that it was very very what I call unpacking a lot that more than what is written behind in here, and also what was going through your mind during the time that you were writing this letter to your dad. So now, second was about your mom. So tell us a little bit about your mom. Like what's her name?
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo. I thought Jen was gonna say Mary Jane from Spider Man, but I should say Mary Jo. So which is good, Mary Jo. So tell us about your mom. Like, what is she like? Like just before all this tragedy happened to you and your mom and your family. Like, what is she like?
My mom was the best mom, and still is the
Okay.
best mom in my mind. She's one of the most kind-hearted, and caring and loving women, and I'm fortunate that she's actually my mom.
Okay.
But she really is one of the most kind-hearted and caring humans and compassionate humans I've ever met.
Okay.
And that was who she was all growing up through my childhood too.
So if you don't mind me asking, while your dad was serving overseas, were you born yet, or you?
No, not yet.
No, you weren't born. It's okay. So have your mom ever shared a story or anything with you? What happened or how she must have felt when your dad went to war during those times. What is it like?
Yeah, actually, it's really sweet because when my dad was in Vietnam and my dad was in the military,
Yeah.
that's actually when they were really, really getting to know each other.
Oh.
They grew up at the same church,
Okay.
but didn't become real close and then start a relationship until he was serving. And it started because they started writing letters to each other.
Oh,
So
okay.
they got to know each other long distance.
Okay.
And really had a very romantic process of getting to know each other by just writing
Got
to
it.
each other for a long time.
Got it. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. So basically, your mom was writing to your dad was writing to your mom. Just so you guys know, before all this crazy technology with text and email, everything. So I think back in the day, people actually wrote to each other, and which is I think that's a beautiful thing. So now fast forward after after the war, after everything, your dad is back. So was your dad get into the get out of the military and join the fireman, or he was in the military and still become a fireman? And like, how has that come about between your mom and your dad after the relationship? When did they get married? When did they settle
Yes.
down? When they decide to settle down and have you guys?
I don't actually remember how quickly things progressed from them writing letters and then him returning home to then being married. But I do remember that he didn't immediately become a fireman.
Okay.
There was a period of him also doing other things.
Gotcha.
He was a man of many trades, and
Got it.
so the beginning of their life in the States and now together, he was doing many other things. He
Okay.
went back to school to get I think an auto mechanics degree.
Oh, nice,
Mhm.
nice, awesome. So now, what do you want before we start reading what you wrote to your mom? What is it about your mom that you don't share in here, or what is it about her? Is that something that she like to do nobody know about, or certain things that she like to cook, or like food, like her favorite dish that she cooks, she always cook or bring to the potluck? So is she?
Actually, the thing that I'd love to share about my mom is that what's really beautiful is that, I know the beginning of my parents' marriage, they didn't have a lot.
Okay.
And what's really beautiful to me is that they started from a place of so much simplicity,
Uh-huh.
and were willing to be like, we don't have a lot, but we have each other, and
Okay.
we also have our Creator.
Okay.
And they totally shared a mutual love for other people and helping other people, and I can see that now because my mom is one of the most servant-minded
Okay.
humans I know. So it's no wonder to me that they fell in love with each other because
Okay.
they both were so much about seeing other people and how can we help them.
Okay. So your mom, because your mom and your dad knew each other from the church. So is that safe to say that your mom also a churchgoer
Mhm.
back in the day? Okay,
Absolutely,
got it.
yeah.
And she's also know the Lord and everything.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good. Okay, perfect. So Now we're gonna go into the book. We're gonna dive deep into the. If you read her book, you will see after she finished writing that letter to her dad, the second portion of it was to her mom. So would you mind reading that for us? Here we go.
It'd be my pleasure. So I wrote, Mom, thank you for not giving up. Your battle has been quiet, but your fight so loud. We made it. We not only made it, can you believe what life is now? Thank you for pointing me to the truth the entire journey. That our God would be with us. You were right. You were so right. Thank you for the quiet tears and the painful prayers. I know He heard. Everyone, thank you for the hugs, the walks, and the talks. Thank you for your selfless love my entire life, for your listening ear and your compassionate heart. I never doubted that I was deeply loved by you. Thank you for loving Dad. In the many years that have passed, I can see more and more why and how he became home to you. Thank you for choosing to trust that our God is redeeming still and believing with me for all that He will yet do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to start asking her questions, and so she can give us more into detail. You know, it's a little bit, I think it's very touchy for her. She started to tear up, as you can see. So for all you all that are listening, again, you don't have tissue, grab it. Just prepare just in case, but you can use your shirt to wipe your tear too if you want to. But anyway, so when you first maybe say, Mom, thank you for not giving up. Your battle has been quiet, but your fight so loud. What does that mean? What do you mean by thank you for not giving up? Your battle has been quiet, but your fight so loud. What does that mean? What are you referring to? Is this is this you refer after your dad passed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm definitely referring to after my dad passed. My mom has always been so about helping other people that she's the last one to ask for help for herself. Mm-hmm. And so by me saying your battle has been quiet, meaning she never asked for anything from anyone. So that's what I mean, she battled in quiet. And yeah, her fight was so loud because the reason I started tearing up when I was reading this was because there's one person that I know my entire life has prayed for me more than anyone else. Right. And it's been my mom.
Okay.
My mom has been so consistent and so faithful in prayer, not only for herself, but for other people and for me and my brother. And she's the one that I know at the end of the day is always praying for me.
Gotcha. So thank you for sharing that with us. I think the audience probably go like, ask her more. What do you mean by not giving up? What do you mean? What do you see in her, or what did she do, or what did she say, or how she say things, or after your dad passed? Mm-hmm. And what do you mean that she's not giving up? Like, what does that mean? Like, do you see something, or what is that like? What does that process look like for you to? Because when you say thank you for not giving up, for me, I think when you say not giving up, that encompasses so much for lovely and beautiful and so caring, so compassionate for other people. Mm-hmm. And then now all of a sudden she lost the love of her life. Mm-hmm. I would safe to say that she basically literally lost the love of her life.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what do you mean, or what did she do, or how did she go about her day that it make you observe or see until your dad passed at 21 and even till now, like not giving up, like she's not giving up. What do you mean by that?
Great observation, and you're right. She did lose the love of her life.
Uh-huh.
And while I know as a daughter what it feels like to lose your father unexpectedly, I don't know how painful it is for my mom to have lost the love of her life.
Right.
And so what I mean by thank you for not giving up is she's so strong. Mm-hmm. She didn't ask for this. She didn't ask for any of this to happen to her family, to her children, to the love of her life. Uh-huh. It's just happened to her. it's just what life has dealt for her. And so because she never asked for any of this, she's had no other choice other than to be strong,
Right.
and to have to continue to show up for life, continue to show up for us
Right.
as her kids.
Right.
And so that's what I mean, is that she has so much strength, and it takes so much strength to not give up after losing
Right.
the love of your life.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And you wrote, next one was, your battle has been quiet, but your fight is so loud. So, you know, that's like battle and then fight. So what do you mean by her battle was so quiet? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, how did she do it? Like,
Yeah.
walk us through when you write that down, you know, just that statement alone, your battle has been quiet. Like, how do you see her cry by herself or suffer or things like tell us like, what do you see, what do you experience with when you come about to her battle was so quiet, but then yet her fight is still so loud and clear.
Yeah.
So walk us through that and tell us more. What does that mean?
So good. Well, so like everybody processes through grief differently. No experience, no journey in that is the same. Why? Because we all feel differently. We're
Right.
all uniquely differently made.
Right.
And so like for me, processing through grief, processing through sorrow, processing through this loss my whole life is I've been more, especially in the beginning parts of the journey, I would verbally share with my close friends and community of people, whether it was youth pastors or mentors in my life in different seasons, even recently, you know, going through all these events of Destiny Global, you know, different people, I'd be processing through more layers of healing, you know, since losing my dad.
Right.
And so that was my experience and has been my experience, is that I'm processing through all this, not only with my creator, but with friends, with community, with now even the public at times, sharing what God is showing me as I'm continuing to heal. But that's not been my mom's journey. Her journey has been more quiet, and what I mean by that is a lot of her healing and a lot of her journey in processing that sorrow and processing that loss and then processing that grief has been internal versus external, meaning she's battled all of the same kinds of things, but not necessarily always vocalized it to other people or vocalized it to you know, a community or vocalized it to a mentor. She's battled it out with her God, and that has been a very intimate, private thing for her, whereas for me, it's at times been private, but a lot of times not.
Gotcha. So basically she's battled alone. She's in her room by herself. If she need to cry, you will not see her cry.
Yep.
Because her fight was so loud that when it come to almost like the battle it's when I saw you write like that your battle has been so quiet. My understanding is that it's almost like her pain
Yes.
was so quiet,
Yes.
but yet her fight was so loud, even though the pain's supposed to be so loud because she just basically lost the love of her life, but yet it was so quiet, it was so subtle, because she chooses to do it alone. She chooses to do it by herself because she feel like if she make her pain loud or maybe make her pain known, maybe she won't be able to, or maybe she feel like she might disservice her dad, your dad, or maybe something that they talk about that we don't know, you know,
Maybe.
with kids.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some, hey, if something happened to me, this is how I would like you to proceed to stay strong for our kids. If you're gonna cry alone. If you cry in front of our kids, then our kids might feel the pain and the hurt, and they might, you know, I don't know what might turn out to be. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That might be something.
There might be many dynamics to
Got it.
that quiet battle, but
Right.
what's so beautiful is that her fight has been so loud at the same token, because had her fight not been loud, she could have very easily said, you know what, I give up. I'm not going to show up for life. I'm not going to be able to function and move forward. And you know, she could have very easily slipped into depression
Right.
or other dangerous
Right.
scenarios in life, and she didn't. She she has not wavered one bit in showing up for her family and showing up for every single season of life going forward, and that to me has shown so much strength and is so loud. Like, no, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here for you, and I'm not going anywhere.
Man, your mom sounds so like great. I want to meet her. I think all of us probably want to meet her.
You know what's so crazy and is just hitting me right now is that I'm sure this was a factor in her processing of that quiet fight, and that is that I have, like, yes, what happened to my dad was so tragic and unexpected and rocked all of our lives. But at the same token, like, I have never heard my mom speak poorly about my dad. I have never heard her speak negatively about my dad. And because of the beauty of how she protected that, he's stayed my hero. He stayed this amazing father in my mind despite what happened.
Right.
Like, look at what she protected by having a quiet fight.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
what a beautiful gift.
Right, yeah. You know, there's so we're gonna continue a little bit. So you talk about we made it. We not only made it, but can you believe what life is now? Thank you for pointing me to the truth, the entire journey. That's how God would be with us. You were right. You were so right. Because I think we're gonna come back to this. What you mean by that? Because there's a few things I would like to know. I would like you to walk us through when you said right here. Thank you for the quiet tears and the painful prayers. I know He heard everyone. Thank you for the hugs, the walk, and the talk. Thank you for your selfless love my entire life, for your listening ear and for your compassionate heart. So, again, it's come back to where, you know, she's not giving up. Her pain has been quiet. Her battle's been quiet, but her fight, yet it's loud. And then she's right. She was right. Her quiet tears and her painful prayer. I know He heard everyone. So what do you mean that she's right? Like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by she's right? She was so right, and then she has the quiet tears and the painful prayer, and then, you know, of course, the hug, the walk, and the talk, goddess. But, you know, what does that mean? Like, what, walk us through, like, the quiet tears and the painful prayers.
I think it all boils down back to what my mom made so apparent to me at that time, and it was a truth for her. And so because it was a truth for her, it was something that anchored all of us going forward from that moment, and that was that she had grown up in the church. She had grown up knowing the truth. She had a relationship with her Creator, and so when this happened, my mom knew, like, all of this is out of our control. All of this is nothing that any of us expected, but there is one truth in the midst of it all, and that is that He still exists. He is still on the throne, and He's not going anywhere. By He, I mean God.
Right.
And so because of that reminder that she brought into that dynamic of the circumstances of what happened, we had that anchor. We had that anchor going forward, that no matter what life was going to look like, no matter how scary or terrifying it was going to be now without our dad, no matter how sad we ever were, the truth was that He was going to be there.
Gotcha.
And that's what we all held on to. That's what I held on to. And had my mom, you know, not been such already such a rock in knowing that, like, I don't know where we would be today.
Gotcha.
And so I know, like, those painful prayers for her also grounded her, because she had a place to run to. She had a place to cry to, even if it wasn't quiet. She had a place that she could go and know that she could face tomorrow, that she could face today, and she could take one more step. And I know those prayers and those conversations with her Creator were painful and were filled with many tears. But at the end of the day, she had the truth, and so we did too.
Thank you. That was good. So next, so now from that that part from that, the next one is this one right here that you say thank you for loving dad in the many years that have passed. I can see more and more why and how he became home to you. What does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, yeah, you saw what happened and you grew up and you see how much your mom loved your dad, how much your dad loved your mom, and then the tragic happened, and then you still continue to see her love for your dad.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
The man is not there anymore. I mean, so how do you see that?
And that's the truth of it, is that's how I then did see it, is because he wasn't there anymore, and I saw the difference of now what was missing.
Gotcha.
And I had to witness like the sadness of that for her,
Right.
because I know that she felt safe with him. I know
Right.
that she felt at peace with him.
Uh-huh.
I know that she felt grounded and assured being with him, and could go anywhere,
Right.
could be in any environment, could be in any dynamics with people,
Right.
and she you could just tell she knew she was going to be okay.
Right.
He was her rock.
Right.
And to now see her, without that,
Right.
it was different. It is different. She's missing her other half.
Right.
And so in her love of him that was so deep and so genuine, that seeing that now not being there became so apparent to me that no, this was home for her, because she felt all of those things and you could see it.
So what do you see different? Thank you for sharing. What do you see different after your dad passed, and the difference between your mom when she was with your dad, and then now your mom basically by herself raising these two beautiful kids? Like, how, even though both of you already grown up and your dad passed, you were 21, how old were your brother? Like 20?
He was 3 years older, so 24.
24. So you both are grown adults. So
Yeah.
how do you see the difference? Like, how?
Yeah, well, it really was a life shaking thing for her. I mean, to have something that you feel like you've found your home, and then your home was ripped right out from under you.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got to find new grounding.
Right.
And so I've watched my mom, her whole life have to figure out that new grounding.
Gotcha.
Yes, thankfully she knew her creator, so that new grounding has come from her relationship with him.
Right.
But it really was in the same way with me, like us having to figure out what is our grounding now.
Right.
Because it's not the foundation of family that you had been experiencing up to that point.
Gotcha.
She had to re-navigate life and figure out, how do I feel safe now? How do I get safety now? How do I feel confident now and
Right.
okay to go anywhere on my own?
Right. Gotcha.
And where do I find that?
Got it. So then it's safe to say, when your dad was still alive, when they were together, when they do things together, they go places together, everything they kind of kind of like what I call, like, they're not standing behind each other, they're actually standing next to each other to do things. So then when your dad passed, now she doesn't know what to do or how to go about things, even though she doesn't know that on her part, but she still did the best she could on other part to be there for you to stay strong, because you wrote about it where you see those where you saw her battle that was quiet, and you saw her fight was so loud, you saw her painful tears, you were basically hear her painful prayer as well, and then so that's pretty awesome. Thank you for that.
She had a lot of weight on her that no one would ever ask for.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, so you also wrote right here, thank you for your listening ears and your compassionate heart. I never doubted that I was loved deeply by you. What do you mean, like, you never doubt that you were loved deeply by her? Like, what does that mean? Like, said, like, have you always felt that she loved you deeply, or she never felt that, or you felt more after your dad passed, or what is it like?
I think what is so beautiful about my mom is that she's my whole life been someone I could talk to about anything. And so because she provided that kind of experience when you're around her, that you just immediately felt safe, you immediately felt accepted, you immediately felt like it was unconditional. That I could talk to her about anything, and she was always ready to listen, and that you were the priority, meaning it didn't matter what she was doing, she would drop what she was doing and she was ready to listen and hear, like if you needed to talk about something. And my mom has been like that her whole life, and so that is absolutely why I don't remember the question.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, no, because for she, because you never doubted that you would love deeply.
I was deeply loved.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I, because of that, and because she created that kind of environment, and relationship, there was never a doubt in my mind, no matter what I did, that she was gonna love me.
So basically, she's gonna love you no matter what. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah. So now, I think you touched a little bit about thank you for choosing to trust that our God is redeeming still and believing in me for all that He will yet do. What do you mean? So I understood. I think we all understood that that when you say thank you for choosing to trust that our God is redeeming, because you shared quite a bit about she continued to trust God no matter what the circumstance, no matter what she went through at that time, no matter what, doesn't matter how hard she has to do things on her own. Maybe she probably now no longer can just have somebody fix a car. She probably have to take it to the mechanic shop to fix a car, and then she probably don't know like what is it like to take the car into shop or anything. But then you also wrote this right here, that and believing with me for all that He will yet do. What do you mean by that? Believing with you for all that He will yet do.
Another one of the amazing things about my mom is that she never put God in a box. She never said, like, well, He can only do this, or it's going to look like this. No, she always had this view of God that we don't know what the future will look like, and that's the good news. Meaning that anything was possible, and that everything that we knew about our Creator is true, and that His promises were truth. And so she, because of that mindset and that belief about who He was, it really helped us journey forward in life, knowing that the future is bigger than we could ever even imagine, because He's in it. And so anytime I ever would question, could this be possible, or should I try this, or should I be more adventurous, or pursue the dreams or the things that were on my heart to do, she would be the first one to say, I believe in you. Like, if you feel like this is something that you were designed to do and you want to go after it, I'm gonna be there cheering you on and not doubting the possibility of it in your life. Why? Because I know the Creator, and He's a lot bigger than we are. And so she never limited what was possible.
That's awesome. So now, before we before we close it out with the kind of like a third sentence that you wrote in here, I want to ask you this. I think the audience probably want me to ask you this too. If your dad is still alive today, so 10 years later, so I'm gonna set the scene for you. 10 years later, so now you're 31.
Yeah.
Or let's say 41. Now you're 41, and then you have a quiet moment with your dad. You have that private time with your dad. What would you tell your dad about your mom? What would you tell him about her? Seeing,
wow,
Like everything that she's been through since he's passed, right? Since he's passed, everything she's been through from the moment that when you were 21, when that passed, all the way down 20 years later.
Mm.
Like, what would you tell your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have that quiet moment or that private time with your dad, imagine that your dad did not pass it. What would you tell your dad about your mom? Like, what would you say? What would you tell him? What would you?
Great question. I would be like, Dad, Dad, do you know how freaking strong
Yeah.
your wife is? Our mom is.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much she has shown up for her family,
Right.
and how much she loves us, how much she loves you, and how she has fought for life and fought for her creator and stayed so grounded in truth? Have you seen her lately? Oh my gosh. She's the most compassionate human I've ever met, and that has held true my entire life. No one can beat her.
Right.
No one can beat her with the compassionate and caring heart for others that she has. You picked an amazing woman.
Okay, that's good. Well, thank you. Now, we're gonna finish up with this. So we made it. By the way, this is right after when Jen wrote in the book when she said, "Mom, thank you." That's the beginning. Mom, thank you for not giving up. Your battle has been quiet, but your fight yet so loud. So this is what she wrote next. That's what Jen wrote next. But we choose to do it toward the end because she said, "We made it." She wrote, "We made it. We not only made it. Can you believe what life is now? Thank you for pointing me to the truth the entire journey." What do you mean?
Yeah.
We made it. We not only made it. Can you believe? So what do you mean by this whole paragraph, right?
Yeah. Well, so when we lost my dad, a lot of times when you go through grief, that period of heavy sorrow can look different. And especially with tragedy and trauma, a lot of times that period of intense sorrow can be a lot more prolonged than the normal grief process. So I know for my family, and especially for my mom and I, that period of like heavy sorrow and grief was about 7 to 10 years. And so when you're in that season of the processing of grief, and it's that long, you can tend to get into a place where you think that this is your life now, that this is how life is going to look for the rest of your life. You think that you at times can think that it will always feel like this, that it will always be heavy, that it will always be full of missing this person so deeply and so many tears. And so you don't fully imagine a day where you won't feel that. You don't imagine that life could get better than that anymore. And so when I say, can you believe that we made it? What I mean is, can you believe we made it out of that season? We made it to a point where, no, it's not heavy anymore. No, it's not that sad anymore. Yes, there's tears, but the tears most of the time now are tears of joy because we can't believe how full life feels. We can't believe how much joy there is in life now. And we can't believe what our Creator has done, what God has done in redeeming such a tragic and moment of tragedy in our lives, to not only bring us to a place where life is so full of beautiful things now, and we have that, but that we don't feel that intense, heavy sorrow and grief anymore, and to be out of that, and to be really pulled out of that foxhole you talked about in episode 1, where we're really out of that foxhole now, and life is bright and so full. And so that's what I mean by, can you believe we made it? We made it out.
Right. One final question. I promise. How? So you said, for that grieving period, it's 7 to 10 years long. So I think, some of us probably think, oh, it's going to be overnight. And so for Jen and her mom and her family, it's 7 to 10 years. That's, that's like a lot of many days, a lot of many nights, a lot of like, that's 10 years. That's when this, right? 10 years.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How did you and your mom, your brother, how are you all did it? If you are young, it'll be, I think it might be easier because, you kids, you don't know anything better. You grow up, you go to school, and since school, go play with your friends or something. But then we're talking about you 21 and your brother 24. You're basically coming to and being an adult. But then add 10 years to that. That's like you from 21 to 31 and your brother's from 24 to 34. So that's talking about when life started, you know, either in school or you start working, you start having family, all these things. Like, how do you, in the midst of that, how that you, your mom, your brother, your family made it out? Like, how can you give us some brief summary, or I don't know, like short or long? I don't know. So how do you do it?
Great question. And really it comes from that next line, which I said, thank you for pointing us to the truth the entire journey. So the book is called Finding His Voice. And that really has been the how, and it's been a journey, especially in those first 7 to 10 years of figuring out when that voice was presenting itself, what it was saying, clinging to what it said, what he said, and allowing that to be what continued to pull me further, further, and further, and further out of that darkness and into the light. And those moments, you know, in the beginning, it was a tiny, soft whisper, that phrase, we got this, Jen, you and me. And over time, it was discovering more and more him, the truth, what was he saying, and finding that the entire journey. That is absolutely what has been the thing that pulled us out of that place, pulled us out of those seasons, pulled us out of everything we've faced in life.
Gotcha. Yeah, so any final words to the audience, any final thoughts? Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Even I know it's such a short passage that you wrote, however, it has so much in there, so much like what I call like seasons and ingredients and then things, not just plain. But anything you want to share with the audience, any final thoughts or final words
I would just say today, with, you know, what we focused on today was my mom, and like you pointed out so clearly, that quiet fight, and that is to say to you, you don't know who in your life might be fighting so hard for you. Even if they're not vocalizing it, even if they're not telling you all the time, there could be someone that cares about you so freaking much that they're on their knees every single day before their creator praying for you. And so just a reminder that you're never alone as you think you might be. There are people out there who love you and care about you and are probably praying for you, and who knows what those prayers will do in time if you're in that foxhole, friend. So take courage and take hope that there's people out there who love you too.
Okay, thank you. All right, guys, we are out. See you next episode. Have a good one.